Alright everybody, welcome back to UKSG Green 2023. This event we're raising money for Crisis. You can donate with the links below the stream. We would also like to shout out ESA and BSG, like I did in the intermission, for their continued support. Now it's time for TheGingerChris, who is, I believe, the other Scott running Metroid Prime Rando. I'm really interested to see what this one has to offer, so take it away.
Thank you very much. So yes, this is Metroid Prime Randomiser, which I believe is actually the only randomizer on the schedule as well. So for anybody that is not aware of what a randomizer is, specifically in regards to the settings that we are playing, we're taking all of the items, putting them into a bag, shuffling that bag, giving it a good old shake, and redistributing them through the game world. I don't know where these items are going to be placed. My job is to find the items that I need to complete the game as quickly as I possibly can and get to those end bosses and finish the game as quickly as we can. So we're going to go for a countdown and we will start on go. So 3, 2, 1 and go. So as we load into the Talon overworld, we are going to immediately start off with one of the mainstay tricks of the game, which is space jump first. So we're going to back up to the rear part of the ship, and of course I fall off. Take out the scan visor, lock onto an object in the back, and move through the room nice and crisp. And we immediately find ourselves the missile launcher, which is good. So this allows us to shoot probably one of our fastest weapon options. We're going to find our thermal visor behind the ship. Now, in the randomizer, we take out the open sequence of the game, the Frigate Orphean. Main reason for that is that it doesn't actually provide any benefits to the world of a randomizer, so we just remove it, immediately start from the game world of Talon, and proceed from there. So with this missile launcher, what we're going to do is head straight to the Artifact Temple. Now the Artifact Temple is the gateway to the final region of the game world, where the final bosses would be placed. However, for us to access this final region, we need to find the keys within the game world. And the Artifact Temple is going to tell us where these keys are located. Once we obtain those keys, we can return here and proceed into final bosses, but there is going to be a series of major items that we require before we can actually fight those major bosses. In the vanilla game, there are 12 artifacts. For randomizer purposes, our community has gone on the basis of taking only 6 of those to shuffle into the pool, and we're getting sticky on the ground. But along with those 6 artifacts, we also require having all 4 of the beams. So we start with Power Beam, but we also require Wave, Ice and Plasma, because the second to last boss requires those for a odd Simon Says damage phase. And then the final boss of the game also requires us to have the Phazon suit. The final boss cannot be damaged unless you are dealing damage with a Phazon beam, which is directly linked to the suit itself. So we hard require that to end the game. So one of the things you'll see me do quite regularly through the game is dashing. And we'll demonstrate it here, and no, we'll mess up. So we'll launch ourselves off this. When you lock onto an enemy or object with the scan visor or the combat visor, by pressing the B button with a directional input left or right, you will dash in that direction. You'll get a burst of acceleration, and it allows you to strafe around the enemy in a circular fashion. However, if you let go of the lock-on button as you input the dash, you can actually turn that burst of acceleration into sideways motion, and we use that to travel through the rooms a lot quicker. The interesting thing is that one of the oversights in the game is there's actually no sideways speed cap. The only thing that determines or prevents you going super fast is gravity. So once you hit the ground, you obviously lose all of that speed. But we can use that kind of sideways motion to go as fast as we possibly can. So we're going to be scan dashing pretty much through a lot of these rooms. So, as this is UKSG green, we have decided to take advantage of some of the cosmetic options within the randomizer. So we will be kind of running around with a green HUD and a green suit as best as we possibly can. Just as a little bit of support for the cause, support of what we're doing here in this specific event. So we've noticed our Morph Ball bombs is on a ledge which we currently cannot get to, but we're at least aware of that. Be careful walking through these corridors. These scarabs will actually destroy you. They do a lot of damage when you're walking through them just passively. I think they do damage based on each frame that you are in contact with them. However, if you have the Morph Ball, it is a lot easier to kind of work with here. So, decided to take a nice wee E-tank here. Going to do a bit of standable terrain, and we clip the fight. So we're going to have to fight our way through these guys. Just going to take these guys out nice and easy, nice and quick. Just because they kind of get in the way of the doing the kind of standable terrain to leave the room. And much rather these guys not be bouncing us about. And then this is going to summon the big one. Sadly cannot skip this cutscene, so we have to watch this guy flex on us. Come on, buddy. There we go. Now normally we would require having the Morph Ball for this, but because we do not have the Morph Ball ability, we're going to have to use this standable terrain to exit the room. It's a bit tricky. And the game sometimes does not like giving us the standable position that we are looking for. Now, one of the odd things about Metroid Prime is that mostly in the game world, if you see something that looks like you can stand on it, chances are you can stand on it. But about 90% of the objects kind of function in that way, and we're going to be using that to our advantage throughout the majority of the game. We're going to be climbing rooms in a kind of quicker fashion than is intended because of these odd standable terrain that we can see. So we have another power-up up there, which is our boost ball, which is a missile launcher on a far ledge there, or a missile expansion, which we don't need. Again, we're going to see more scarabs here. We do not want to walk through these guys because they will delete most of our health. So we're just going to remove them. And we're going to do what's called the Hive Mecha loop here. There are two items I'm most likely expecting to see. One is going to be the Morph Ball. The other one is going to be the Space Jump Boots. The Space Jump Boots is what I would rather see because it gives us the most movement. However, I'm expecting to see the Morph Ball on the basis of what I kind of see throughout the game world. So we're going to ignore that. That is a nothing item. That is something that the randomizer kind of shuffles in when there are less major items or less items in the pool than is expected. Because we are only running with 6 artifacts rather than the original 12, we also start with the charge beam, which is usually shuffled in. So the game has to fill in some of the empty slots. So we do have our Space Jump Boots, which is by far one of the best items in the game. This is going to give us a double jump. This is going to allow us to traverse the game world a lot easier. And it's going to allow us to extend a lot of our kind of movement options here. So we're just going to return. Sadly, we were blocked by a morph tunnel, so we can't keep going in that direction. So we're just going to head back the way that we came and enter into the main plaza once again. So again, heading through a room with scarabs. We do not want to walk through these guys. Gonna do a wee jump up here, lock onto this object in the back, traverse the room nice and quick through a scan dash, and we're gonna do a wee visual check here and see what is held within this vault. That is our spider ball, so that's something we do want to come back for. But sadly, we need our bombs and we need our morph ball before we can actually work on that puzzle. So this, I'm presuming, is actually our morph ball, which it is, which is good. We need that. We are going to pick up our bombs, which is on this ledge up here. What I am going to do is use a bit of a camera clip to see what is in this tree here. There is an item behind this, but we require the super missiles to obtain it. Using our camera clip and kind of pushing against the object, we can see that it's a missile that is stored within that. So we now have our morph ball, we now have our bombs. We are going to do a few morph checks in this room that we've already been to, and then we are going to go collect our spider ball. So again, use a bit of standable terrain, not necessarily intended. We can climb up to this morph check here. Another nothing item, no point collecting it, doesn't do anything. And then we're going to drop down here and check what is behind this wall. And we find our Varia suit, and this is our heat protection suit. So now we have access to the Magmoor Caverns. So that is something, that is a location that I will probably enter into very soon. Now, with the randomizer, when it comes to the way the randomizer works, there is logic that is set in place based on the kind of the difficulty or the tricks that you decide to select as part of the randomizer program. Now, for us, we are using our kind of community beginner settings that we race on a weekly basis, and this is specifically the settings that our Prime Randomizer tournament will be utilising for its first week of tournament. So, nice and easy, kind of settings that I am accustomed to on a regular basis, so I can understand the logic a little bit, so I know from experience and know from how the randomizer works, I can kind of take some audio cues as to where the randomizer wants to send me. So we're going to grab this spider ball here, and I'm going to take the Varia suit that we have straight into Magmoor and check to see what the game wants us to find.
In the meantime, may I jump in with a quick announcement and
Go
donation? Well, let's begin with the announcement, because friends, we've just hit $3,000!
Very nice.
Incredible, and I can tell you the donation that tipped us over was $165 from the man to my immediate right. It's Scan Me, and they're saying, oops, I tripped and got us to 3K. Sunglasses emoji. And that donation's going towards the shaving of Ruffled Bricks' head, which now stands at $765 out of 1,000, so just under 250 to go. Really exciting stuff. Thank you, Scan Me, for the incredibly generous donation. Thank you all for helping us reach 3K. It's back to you, Chris.
Thank you. So, Magmoor, super hot. One of the interesting features with this room specifically we are in is that the game devs, is a way to try and persuade the player from not coming here before the Varia suit, was to double the amount of heat damage that the player would take, so to kind of like scare them away and not come back. However, in some situations, depending on what you end up seeing, like the amount of energy tanks that you find, some players will try and just bum rush their way through this, depending on what they're still remaining to find here. So that's just a missile, we're going to leave that. And we're just going to do a little morph puzzle here. Or well, lack of a puzzle, it's more dodge the enemies that don't really do a whole lot of damage. They're allergic to bombs, so we'll just get rid of those. Makes the return journey a lot easier. And we found the gravity suit. So in the vanilla game, all of the suits will retain the properties of the previous suits in the chain. So if I was to find gravity suit before Varia, I would also gain the heat protection. However, in Randomiser, it was voted to split those effects so that each of the suits had its own kind of personality, its own unique preferences. So Varia is heat protection, Gravity is water movement, so water does not affect us anymore. If we didn't have the gravity suit, we would be kind of like sluggishly powering through water substances or liquids, and it would be kind of a lot slower. So thankfully, nice wee bonus finding the gravity suit. It also gives us some damage reduction as well. The first suit that we find gives us 10% damage reduction. Second suit brings that up to 20. And once we have all 3 suits, we actually go straight up to 50. Now that we've found 2 of the 3 suits, and the last suit that we do require is hard required to finish the game, we will have the full damage reduction for the final bosses. Now, we're going to try and dodge a few turrets here. These guys do a fair chunk of damage. Going to check, see what's down there. That is our ice beam, so we will be requiring that. But first off, we must find our power bombs. That is a kind of homage room to Super Metroid. For anybody that's played the old SNES game, there is a tube where you are required to power bomb to get access to the majority of Meridia. That is a very similar situation there, a kind of throwback. Now, I'm going to head back into Talon. There is a few checks in the beginning area of the game that I want to kind of close off so we don't have to double back there a little bit later. We're going to climb this root cave room that we've been through previously, but we're actually going to climb to the very top of the room. Granted, it's going to be out of logic, but it's a nice thing just to kind of get out of the way so we don't have to double back later down the line. And then we also have the landing site check. Now, one item that we have seen was the thermal visor, which was sitting behind the ship. Now, thermal visor ultimately doesn't actually do anything. It's not hard required for anything. It doesn't hard lock anything, but it does give us some logical information to kind of work with. Throughout the game, there's a series of thermal conduits where we would need to use the thermal visor to see them and then shoot them with the wave beam. However, you can still just shoot them with the wave beam, not actually need to see the conduits themselves. But it is decent to have. It helps out with the final boss, just with the way the final boss works, and we'll kind of explore that once we get to it. Now, we're going to do another scan dash here. We're going to lock on to this Gamer or Zoomer, I can never remember which one's which. We're going to wait until it is on the left hand side of that kind of little light post and throw ourselves across the room. Hold back so that we don't fall down the room once again, and then climb up. Now, there's a series of invisible platforms here. They don't move, they're always there. We would technically require the X-ray visor to see them, but again, very much similar to the thermal visor. Doesn't necessarily hard lock a lot of the things in this game. Now, we're going to do probably what is considered the game's easiest out of bounds for randomizer purposes. We're going to stand on that route there, jump out to avoid an invisible, I guess, ceiling that we're currently stuck on, and then jump back on top of the invisible ceiling. We're going to be kind of in a sticky state while we're up here, use our bombs to kind of free ourselves off that, and then jump freely into a room that has an absolute useless item. We found another one of those nothing items. Doesn't do us anything, doesn't give us anything, it is just a filler item. So that was a absolutely thankless out of bounds that we done. So we're going to move through these rooms, we're going to go back into the landing site, pick up that thermal visor, check to see what is in the room just after it. And then we'll take a quick save, just as a kind of wee safety thing, refill our ammunition, refill our health, and then continue back. One of the things this thermal visor is potentially telling me is that the crashed frigate, which is in the room coming up, or kind of series of rooms coming up, might be required. But again, sadly, we need the ice beam to actually access it because the front door is ice locked, and we will require the wave beam to activate the thermal conduits. So until we see those, we can't actually go in to the frigate itself. Thermal, as I said, doesn't actually do us anything for the kind of the purposes of the game itself, but it does give us that kind of logical information as to where the game might be expecting us to go. So we got the grapple beam, nice to have, very rarely kind of required, doesn't really lock anything. There is one room that I would much rather have the grapple beam for than have to use the kind of the alternative strategies, mainly just because they're kind of finicky. Ooh. Nice fat thumb of the morph button there. So I'm going to head back into Magmar. We are going to head into the, I guess, the 4th region of the game, which is Phendrana Drifts. Currently there is not a whole lot we can do in that region, but with the way the game is pushing me, with the fact that we found the Varia suit, we didn't see much in Magmar during our initial kind of, I guess, adventure there. But Magmar is the only direction that allows us to access Phendrana, so it might be that the game is pushing us through Magmar to get to Phendrana, find out what our next progression item is, and then take that item into the kind of the next regions of the game or the next areas. Failing that, if we don't find what we're looking for, then it will be a backtrack to Chozo, where we'll go into the kind of the middle parts of Chozo and look for our kind of next progressive item. Going to dodge the Magmar here. Guy's a little bit big. You generally bump into him quite easily. So, nice wee quick movement through the room here. And we're just going to head back into the room with the turrets. We are going to dodge the guys with the turrets. We're just going to do another wee kind of combat dash here. This is going to throw us across the room. We're going to hide behind this pillar so we don't get shot. And then jump up onto a little bit of standable. And then through to a transfer room here. So there's an item up here. Need to do a double bomb jump. Hopefully not fall in the lava that's at the bottom. Sadly just a missile. Nothing too interesting for us. But we're now going to head into the coolest region of the game. Has some of the best music in the Prime game itself. Actually has 2 fantastic tracks. The tracks are kind of split between the front and the back end. The front end is kind of nice, chill, cool vibes. The back end has a little bit of a kind of an extra electronic vibe that kind of goes through it. So just a few ice sheets that we need to shatter. Pass through into the opening room. And now we can do some kind of scouting here. So we're going to open up a doorway. Allows us to traverse into another area. Just an E-tank behind that sheet of ice. Can't get that at the moment. Probably won't be getting that, just on the basis it's locked behind the plasma beam. We're going to travel through this room with Morph Ball because it's a little bit safer. We're going to take less damage as we bump into the enemies in this room. Another sheet of ice here, so we're going to do a visual check and just see what is hidden behind. Just a missile, so nothing worth coming back for later. And then we have a spider track locked item here that we're going to go do a wee nosy for. E-tank, we'll take a second E-tank. Generally, for a randomizer race, I would look for maybe 3 or 4 for marathon purposes. We'll take as many as we can get just because it is a little bit safer. So travel through this room, just going to dodge these guys. Generally in Prime, you kind of want to avoid as much combat as you possibly can. For the most part, we're just looking to breeze through the rooms as quickly as we can. We will only do combat in kind of the situations where they are kind of hard required. Now, this ominous purple gaze indicates that our main power bomb item is sat within there. So, logically, we know that our ice beam is locked behind power bombs. We now know that our power bombs are locked behind plasma, so we need to find plasma to unlock that kind of next chain. However, based on experience, that I generally know that our ice beam kind of comes after the wave beam, with just the way things are. The game world is a little bit kind of poorly kind of positioned in the sense that the ice beam doesn't actually lock many checks. It locks like one check outside of doors, but most of the relevant ice doors are actually locked behind wave doors. So generally with the randomizer, with the way the logic is kind of put together, you'll find wave beam before you'll find the ice beam. So I'm expecting, with the information that we have, to see ice, to see wave, to then find our plasma, to then get our power bombs, and then to get the ice beam. Might not be true. The game might decide to prove me wrong. We shall see. But picked up another extra E-tank. Again, as I said, nice to have. But because we've picked up the Findrana Canyon item, this is going to trigger a cutscene that we can't skip. And we are going to see the Meta Ridley, a big robotic chicken. He's just going to soar through the sky nice and gracefully. And then we might see this guy a little later on. We shall see. So we're going to nip over to the Chozo Ice Temple. Now this is where the vanilla wave beam location, or where wave beam would be in the vanilla game. There is a little bit of a, in randomizers, one of the kind of the common things that people like to laugh about is how often an item ends up in its vanilla position. Wave beam kind of really likes to be in its vanilla position. So there is a high chance that we could see wave here. And I'm kind of hoping we do, because it makes life a lot easier. So we're going to do a wee visual check. We're not going to enter into this room, because if we enter into the room too far, and it's not wave beam, and we don't have wave beam to get out, well, the door itself is wave locked on the inside, so we will be stuck there. So we're going to do a visual check. We're going to open the door, see what's hidden. If it is wave beam, we'll take it. If not, we're just going to leave. Okay, it's not wave beam, but it is a beam. That is our plasma beam. So we've now found another part of this kind of chained puzzle of logic. So we know where our ice beam is. We know where the power bombs are. We know where plasma to get the power bombs to get the ice beam is. But we don't have wave to get our plasma. So that is what we now need to work on, is finding the wave beam to unlock all of this. And once we have all three of those beams, we can start looking for our artifacts. So we scanned our artifact hints earlier on. We haven't read them yet. They are in our logbook. Once I find my wave beam, I will do a wee nosy and see what we are required to do, and we'll start chasing those. Now, I'm going to take advantage of a quality of life feature that we have, which is called Warp to Start. So this was put in to assist with kind of randomizer soft locks that some people could get themselves into. So from a save station, saying no and holding the shoulder buttons, you can send yourself back to the room that you begin in for the seed. So for us, it'll be the landing site. However, there are some options that you can shuffle your starting location. So that feature would send you back to where that starting location is. Now, we've done as much as we can in Findrana. We can't go any further because it is wave locked. We've done as much as we can in Magmoor, because again, the further parts of Magmoor are wave locked. So all we've really got to do is go into Chozo and hope to find our wave beam. So we're going to do some visual checks. Going to do some kind of mid Chozo checks and try and find that wave beam. As soon as we find it, we're going to leave and go get the other remaining beams as quickly as we can. So there is one item check that we've kind of orphaned here. I don't want to leave it behind because it's kind of rubbish to go back for later down the line. So we may as well do this now. Dodge these guys. They don't do too much damage now that we have two suits, but it's always good for the kind of the muscle memory just to kind of pew them out of the way. There is a morph tunnel just to our right here as we enter in. Camera decided to be a little awkward. Very unusual to get the camera kind of going in the reverse direction there. So that was a bit weird. Cleared out the orphan check, so we're all good for this kind of front part of Chozo. Another wee dash just to kind of move through the room nice and smoothly. And then we're going to head in to the middle part of Chozo now. Now, one of the key kind of facts that we will be trying to avoid as best as possible is bosses. We do not want to fight any of the region bosses, generally because they're fairly slow, and there is also kind of the situation that if you gamble that your progressive item is on a boss and you lose that gamble, then you have lost a good chunk of time. Bosses can take kind of somewhat on an upwards of like 5 to 8 minutes depending on the arsenal that you have. Some bosses can go kind of quickly, but again, it's all dependent on what you've got going on your kind of inventory here. So we're going to head to the Watery Hall area. This is where you would find Charge Beam normally, but for kind of, again, quality of life purposes, we start with Charge Beam just because it is good for combat. Not having Charge Beam tends to be a massive grievance in the community. Specifically, there is an enemy called the Chozo Ghosts, which are only weak to the Power Beam. If you don't have Charge Beam, you're throwing something like, I think it's like 30 odd Power Beam shots to those guys, and it is tedious on the thumbs, especially when some rooms have multiple of those ghosts. So, taking a wee bit of an acid dive there to check to see what is under the water. Nothing of too much importance, just another missile expansion. Always good to have more missiles. And we're going to find a power bomb expansion, which is actually really good. Now, in this game, expansions do give you access to the weapon of that specific type. So if we found a missile expansion, it would allow us to use the missile launcher, even if we didn't have the main missile launcher itself. Power bomb expansions work exactly the same way. However, the one thing to note is that these expansions are not considered for logic purposes. So if I was to find a missile expansion or a power bomb expansion, anything that would be locked behind those would not be relative to what I'm looking for. My progression or my next progressive link would not be locked behind those at that point in time. We would be required to find the main item. But having the power bomb is actually really good because it does allow us to kind of work through these kind of power bomb checks if possible. However, based on the knowledge that we have, knowing that our ice beam is locked by power bombs, knowing that our power bombs are locked by plasma, and knowing that plasma is locked by wave, we know that our wave cannot be locked behind a power bomb check. So we're going to ignore anything that's power bomb related until we find wave. Wave is the key item here that will kind of unravel everything that we are working with. We're going to head towards the incinerator drone boss fight. This boss is affectionately named Zoid in the community, named after the gentleman who, or the individual who programmed the, I guess, the RNG aspect of it. This boss is terrible in the kind of the vanilla speedrun, simply on the basis that it can go from anywhere in its cycle, can have a variance. I think it's like either 12 to 16 seconds per cycle, and there's 4 of those cycles mandatory throughout the fight. In Randomiser, we have it set so that each cycle is exactly the same amount of time. It can randomize how much time that is, but once you've kind of got a feel for phase 1, you know that phase 2, 3 and 4 are going to follow the same timing. So we're just going to stand on a little bit of its ledge here. We're just going to wait until the red weak spot pops up. Once that pops up, we're just going to drop a missile into its grill and then move on to the next phase. Oh, there's a nice wee quick one there. Decided to pop up just as we were about to shoot the wasp and ended up doming it in the face instead. I'm just going to wait for this last bit. So we have 1, 2, 3 remaining checks. Never mind. There's the wave beam. There's the missing puzzle link. If that wasn't our wave beam. We had 2 remaining checks before we were probably going to have to go face the region boss, which, as I said, is slow. The bosses are generally slow, but once you had exhausted all of the possible outcomes, then you knew that that would be the only thing left for us to do. However, now that we have the wave beam, we can return and start chasing the key items that we are already aware of. So we're actually in a really good position here where we're entering into effectively what is no mode. So we're going to take this wave beam, get our plasma, get our power bombs, get our ice, check our artifacts, and then start chasing those artifacts. So again, we're going to take a warp to start here just because it's quicker. We need to get to Findrana Drifts. The fastest way from where we are is probably just going through Talon, down the Root Cave access point, and then just passing through the Magmoor Highway. So while I do some backtracking, I'm more than happy for you guys to kick in with any donations or anything you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, I can mention a few things. Well, first of all, like I said previously, all of our upcoming runs are being posted on our Twitter at UKSG Marathon. So if you want to check out and be notified when the next run is about to happen, then you can follow us there. And if you use the hashtag UKSGGreen2023, again, UKSGGreen2023, we may feature you on the stream. So yeah, that's really, really fun. We also post all of the VODs of the runs on our YouTube channel called United Kingdom Speedrunner Gathering. Go find us. You'll know who we are by the joystick. And so subscribe there if you want to catch all of the runs from this event and all future and past events as well. Besides that, we've raised $3,000 already, and as satisfying as that of a number that is, I think we can probably break the satisfaction if it means raising just a little bit more for charity. So get those donations in while you can. But yeah, back to you.
All right. So thanks to that powerbomb expansion that we picked up earlier on, we can actually pick up our ice beam a little in advance than we should. As I said, logically, that powerbomb expansion doesn't do us anything, but we're going to take advantage of it. We're going to use it where we can, and then we're just going to keep going forward here. So throughout the game, a lot of the tricks that we do are purely kind of movement based. There isn't really much in the way that I would call RNG. Most of the RNG when it comes to the randomizer is kind of rooted out from the randomizer's kind of quality of life side of things. We try to keep it so that when we're doing kind of randomizer races, both players would receive the same overall RNG. Granted, there are some things that we don't really have control over, but as I said, kind of like Zoid, for example, we try to minimize the variance there so both players have the exact same kind of possible options. And there's a few other little bits like that throughout the game. Now, we are heading back into the Chozo Ice Temple here. We are going to collect our Plasma Beam, which is by far our best combat beam in the game. It essentially incinerates anything that we shoot with it with a charged shot. Now, one thing I am going to do is farm these guys to see if I can replenish that power bomb. I doubt it, but you never know. Nope. The mini-boss that we are about to kind of face, you can sometimes one-shot it depending on how well placed your power bomb is. So it would have been nice to have one, but sadly not today. Now, when it comes to the speedrun for Prime, power bombs are generally the biggest nuisance. Power bomb drop rates in this game are absolutely terrible. In Prime 2, they actually fixed the general drop rate based on whether your ammunition was low. So it would prioritize your low ammunition above most things. In Prime 1, nah. Every enemy has a kind of set drop rate based on just what they coded in. And power bombs generally have the lowest drop rate percentage. So we've got 4 She-Goths here that we need to fight our way through. We're going to dodge these guys. They tried to headbutt us. This guy, yep. And then we've just knocked down 4 little guys. Mama's not happy. Mama's going to wake up here, go into a little bit of a rage. She's going to come bursting out here to kind of try and beat us up. But we're not too fussed. She doesn't do too much damage. Going to spam some missiles by holding C up on the GameCube controller and pressing Y. And then we're just going to pick up our plasma beam here. The plinth is going to get kind of stuck on us. And now we have all of our beams. So I'm going to go collect our power bombs, and then we're going to take a look at the artifact hints and see where we are going in the game world. This is where we're going to start routing. Now, one of the other things, as we said, the kind of our go mode is our beams, plus the artifacts, plus the phase-on suit. Now, one of the benefits, one of the added features that we put in regarding the phase-on suit is that if we end up in the situation that we have all of our artifacts, but we still don't have our phase-on suit, we can go to the final region of the game and gain a hint that will tell us as to where roughly the phase-on suit is. It doesn't give us a direct informational kind of like position as much as they are similar to the artifacts themselves. The artifacts will tell us exactly what room they are positioned in, whereas the phase-on suit will give us more of its region it's based in. One of the things I am expecting is the phase-on suit is probably going to be in the final region, the phase-on mines. Tends to be like a common thing with the randomizer, but we could be proven wrong, so we're just going to take this main power bomb, and now we're going to check our hints and see what the game wants us to do. So, Freight Left to Deck Gamma, so that is in the crashed frigate. Elite Quarters, we have 1 required mandatory boss. Sun Chamber, we have 2 required mandatory bosses. Another phase-on mines 1, more mines, and the research lab Ether, which is in Fendrana here. So we're going to keep going, grab that artifact. One thing that we now do know is that we hard require the X-ray visor. Come on game, let me up, thank you. As I said earlier on, the thermal visor isn't hard required for anything in the game, but it does give us logical kind of information. The X-ray visor, however, does have one specific check that it does hardlock, and that is the Elite Quarters boss. You cannot do damage to him in his center phase without the X-ray because you can't see his weak spots. So we do require to find that. So we're going to have to do a little bit more digging throughout the game world here, because we need that. Without it, we aren't going to be able to complete the game as it is. So we will do some over-checking until we find it. I'm going to pass through the pirate labs here, do as many checks as we possibly can. We're probably going to route all the way through Fendrana, exhaust as much as we possibly can. But it'll be nice and breezy. We have the best beam in the game. These enemies aren't going to be particularly difficult. The only thing we can hope for is that we don't have to fight the other region boss as a result to try and find said X-ray. Come on, guys. Oh, bonked our head there. Now, one of the items that we would like to see on our travels here is the boost ball. Generally because it is good for movement purposes, but it also allows us to perform a little bit of a fight strategy on one of the end bosses of the game, which we'll discuss in the situation that we do find it. So we'll get rid of this guy. Gonna shoot this. Use a bit of standable and miss it. Lovely. Fall down the room. Usually happens. Generally usually happens because we get bullied by the pirates. So again, I'm just going to take the safe one, go straight up the room instead. Take the nice easy way through. We're going to freeze these turrets. These turrets don't thaw if you freeze them. Turrets later in the game will thaw, just because they are a little bit more over-tooled. But we're going to dash our way through this room. Get bullied by some pirates. Do a wee scan dash across this room. And check to see what is in the observatory, which is nothing. Nothing of interest, just a missile expansion, so we'll leave that. So we are now heading up into the control tower, and there's a little bit of a... I want to say it's a skip, it's a very minor skip, but walking out of this door would generally trigger a fight sequence. However, if we inch just ever so slowly, you can miss the fight trigger just by a little bit, jump on a window ledge that's slightly above it, and dodge it entirely. The fight itself would lock the room, and you would have to fight something like in the region of like 8 pirates, which would lose you obviously a few minutes. Doing the skip only takes a few, like 5 to 10 seconds. Definitely a lot more beneficial to us. Going to check, see what's in this dropped tower. Find an E-tank, which is good. Gives us a wee health top up. We're going to roll out here. Be careful when you roll out though, because if you roll out with too much speed, you can end up rolling into that said fight trigger. So we're going to keep going. We're still looking for our artifact that we know is in this region. And hopefully find what we are looking for. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is George, the first Metroid that you will see in this game. Goodbye, George. We're going to wait on Edward to smash the glass, because without that we can't actually pass through here. Going to jump up, grab our first of the 6 artifacts, and then we're just going to leave here. These pirates are going to be really angry that we took away George from them. We are not really going to care for the time being. Just going to keep going. Remove this gentleman here. We're going to scan this object. It's going to tell us what's down in this item check, just a missile. Going to ignore it and keep going forward. And now we're heading into the back part of Fendrana. As you'll hear, the music has kind of changed a little bit. So we're slowly going to morph our way through this tiny little tunnel. We're going to head into the aquatic part of this region. Now, item down there, going to take a wee visual check, see what it is. Going to ignore it, it's just an E-tank. We're going to dodge a fight with what is called a Hunter Metroid, which is a kind of more dangerous version of a Metroid. It has kind of long tentacle-like talons and can hook you from a distance. We're just going to ignore it. We don't necessarily want to fight that. Remove these flying pirates so they don't bother us as we climb this room. Going to use some standable terrain. We're going to do what is called a slope jump. When you push against a sloped surface, you can actually gain a little bit more height than you normally would. Now, there is a hidden door behind this. We're going to shoot the plasma. It's going to hit the door that's behind the rubble based on the splash damage, and then drop a power bomb to remove the rubble in front of it. Again, using another slope jump there to get to a heightened part of this room. Do a wee check there, find there's another nothing model. As I said earlier on, they don't do anything, so we're just going to leave it. And now, as I said, we're passing into the kind of the aquatic part of this region. Thanks to having the gravity suit, this region is not going to be much of a bother to us. Water's not going to hinder us. We don't need to do some horrible tricks to try and navigate out. Visual check there, just an E-tank. A missile expansion down where vanilla gravity would be. Just going to leave that. Whoop. Getting stickied on the ground there. Happens regularly. And now we're going to head and do the kind of the final few remaining checks of the region that is not the region boss. We want to try and minimize the bosses that we do throughout this game because they are a kind of major time sink. We do know that we are required to do 2 of them, so we're going to try and dodge doing the 3rd of the region bosses. Now there is an invisible standable here that we can use just to kind of climb this room a lot faster. They modelled, I guess, the standable block that's there, but they didn't actually model the visual terrain for it. They fixed this in the remaster. I don't know if they fixed it in any of the subsequent versions of Prime and the kind of the PAL regions or the trilogy version. But I at least know they did fix it in the remaster. We'll take a nice wee easy missile tank here. And we'll pass through. We are going to check the rear part of the region boss's room. There is an item check in the back portion here. Going to see if that is what we're looking for before we head back into Magmar. Use our grapple beam just to traverse this room a lot easier. And there we go. There is our X-ray visor. That is the last part of our main puzzle, I guess. We still require to find the Phazon suit, but the chances are, with the fact that we have to go into Elite Quarters, the region boss of the Phazon mines, we're probably going to find our Phazon suit on our journey down there, just based on kind of experience and kind of natural trends of the current version of the randomizer. So we're immediately going to leave Fen. We've got the last kind of major progression item that we need before kind of heading into the kind of the artifact chase, and we're now effectively in a kind of go mode outside of that Phazon suit. But we can get our 6 artifacts. Based on that, we can get our hint for the Phazon suit. This will all be open knowledge, so we are effectively in that kind of go mode status.
While we're at it, do we have a moment for a quick donation?
Go for it.
Sounds great. Well, we have $40 from Storm Thief with no comment, but thank you for the donation. That's going towards the Pizza Tower category upgrade to True Ending, which means that we are $40 away from getting that incentive met. It's closer than ever, and we are definitely approaching the any one donation can do it territory. So if you think you have what it takes to get that incentive met, get your donations in. At the same time, I'm happy to announce that this event now has beaten Winter 2022 for the highest donation total. So we're now in 6th place with quite a few runs to go. Now, I'm happy to tell you we can enter the top 4 with just $140 more to beat Summer 2020 and Spring 2021. The top 3 are a bit further away, but I'm sure we can meet those in due time. But anyway, that's all from me. GingerChris, back to you.
Okay. Now, Phazon Mines is a fairly dangerous location in the game. A lot of these enemies are a lot more aggressive. We're going to find a few enemies that are are beam specific as well. So we have to kind of work with these. The thing is, these enemies are all going to be very specific to where they are, so there's never going to be any RNG as to enemies' kind of spawn locations. It's all going to be set. We are going to use a bit of standable terrain here to skip a barrier, so we don't have to fight this mini-boss. As a result of skipping that, we are also going to skip any of the AI in this room from triggering. We're going to farm these boxes to pick up some power bombs, hopefully, because power bombs are notorious, as I said, for drop rates, and we got absolutely none. And great. Welcome to Vent Shaft. This is going to start spewing some poisonous puffers. Our second of the 6 artifacts is located here, so what we're going to do is morph and drop a power bomb. And then we're going to reverse the direction of these large, oversized fans. And the puffers aren't going to like this. Goodbye. grab our next artifact, and keep moving forward. We're going to head into a room that has several beam pirates, these color-coded armored gentlemen. We aren't going to fight them. We're just going to dodge them, going to morph to reduce our kind of hitbox here, and we're going to fight the first of the elite pirates here. Now, these guys are kind of funky. When they activate, they will flex, and then their first job is to try and identify where Samus is. However, if you just walk around them in a circle, they will never activate their AI properly because they need to physically see you in their line of sight. So you kind of walk around in circles and just launch rapid-fire missiles in their face until they fall apart. And the weird thing is, this is true for the region boss, because the region boss is actually just a bigger version of those gents. And we can do something very similar with him. I'm going to disable those turrets just because there's 4 of them and they can be a little aggressive. And we're entering into the Metroid quarantine regions, and like any individual who has no sensible kind of ideas on their journey, we're going to release them. We're just going to let them out. They're more of a problem for the pirates than they are us. However, this one is going to be a bit of a nuisance. Right. A little aggressive, guys. Come on, out of the way. Somebody drop me a power bomb. Would be appreciated. Nope. What about you? We do actually require a power bomb for one of the upcoming rooms as well, so we might be stuck looking to farm one here. Did we get one? Nah. Rip. Gonna use our X-ray visor to navigate these invisible platforms. What I would have liked to have done is freeze one of those Metroids and use it as a kind of a scan or a combat dash option. But they were a little too aggressive. Oh, there we go. There's our power bomb. Nicely on time. Though I say that, we actually need to blow up this rubble. So this room is extremely dark in this monitor, so it's kind of hard to see where I'm going. I'm going to do a slope jump up here, and we just missed it ever so slightly. This is one that I am not very consistent with. It's a bit tricky. There we go. We're going to jump to our next artifact, our third one. Going to take a lock on here and move back, and then dash across this room, holding back, and then we're going to keep moving forward. Now, I'm going to open this door. We're going to reload the room that we've just came from, because as I said, we do need a power bomb. So I was hoping one of those guys would drop one. They did not. So we're going to have to do a little bit of a farming exercise here to try and get a replacement power bomb. So these guys are going to path around the room awkwardly. Oh, nicely done. There we go. Power bombs are being a little generous today, which is good. It's what we want for marathon purposes. We're going to head further into the lower part of Phase On Mines. So while we're on the elevator, we're just going to charge our beam. We need to shoot the door that's coming up. May as well use our time wisely. Pirate down here, going to remove him. Check to see what's under the mushroom. Just a missile. Now these are Hunter Metroids, so we passed one of these guys earlier on. These ones we want to remove because they are a bit of a nuisance. They can latch onto you, they will actually pull your camera in the direction that they are at. So we don't want these guys latching onto us at all. We're going to wait for this guy to be in a position, and we're going to mess up the scan. Oh, power bomb. We'll take that. But thankfully we have grapple, so we're just going to wait until it's in a separate position and just grapple across. This is the power bomb rubble that we required the power bomb for. Now, this room here generally does require Boost Ball to kind of pass through, but you only take a little bit of burn damage from the Phazon. We don't necessarily care about that too much. Now, this room is pitch black, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the Thermal Visor. It's actually really good for kind of moving through some of these darker rooms. And these rooms are naturally dark because of the way they're designed, even based on the kind of the lighting perspective. That's a missile under the rubble, so we're just going to ignore that. Do a wee slope jump to get on top of this mushroom. Jump through this room nice and quickly. And then we're going to fight these plasma pirates. Just going to throw some salsa at them. Make them nice and hot. And then we're going to do a little bit of standable terrain here. Going to jump across this chasm. And now we're probably going to find the one thing... Oh, no, there we go, that's good. Now, before we go into this fight, we're going to take a bit of a safety save, just as a precaution, for kind of marathon purposes. We shouldn't have too much bother, but it's good to refill the health at least as well. So, going to dodge this guy. We're going to try and get on top of these boxes just for a quicker method of climbing the room. This guy hasn't activated because we didn't actually climb the room properly. Thaw the ice across this door, and we're going to head into the Omega Pirate fight, the Elite Quarters. And we know that there's an artifact here. Now, we're going to roll to the left. As I mentioned, so long as you don't walk into this guy's line of sight, he's not going to properly activate. We're going to shoot his 4 armoured shoulders and kneecaps here. Blow these open. Ah, we missed the cycle. Forgot that I actually had the extra power bomb. So what this is going to result in is fighting some beam pirates. So we're going to remove these guys best we can, in hopes that we can get rid of them before Omega Pirate goes into his visibility phase. We're going to try and one cycle this guy. It's going to be kind of tough. Yeah, I think we're going to end up with a 2 cycle here. More pirates are going to drop down. These guys have dropped down in a bit of an awkward position. They're going to do a bit of a kind of get down Mr. President. Yep, and they got in the way. So we're into cycle 2. I'm going to try and dodge this guy's stomps here. Now, one of the benefits is that we can kind of ignore the ground pirates here, because he will deal damage to them himself. So, now that he's downed, we're going to remove these gents. Plasma pirates, these guys are fairly easy to get rid of. Bring up our X-ray visor again and just wait. Oh, which one is he at? Okay. Nice one. Now, the way that Omega Pirate spawns work is that his spawning in these pools is always going to be based on the pool that is furthest away from you that wasn't the pool that he was last in. So he can never double up on a pool. So based on where you position yourself, you can manipulate what pool that he's going to spawn in. Because we ended up in the kind of the 2 cycle there, I wasn't particularly too sure, or I lost track of what pool he was going to end up in. But we managed to get the nice easy 2 cycle. We're going to get our next artifact. And then we're going to start heading towards the upper part of mines and clear that out as we head to our remaining artifacts of the game. activate this elevator, and we can head to the top. Gonna do a scan dash just for the movement side of things. Get a nice wee E-tank as a refill. And then we're gonna walk through this burny stuff here. And then do a bit of standable terrain climbing. So we're now going to take the transport part that takes us to the upper portion of mines. Now, we have another one of these elite pirates that are in this canister. We're going to try and see if we can skip him entirely. Now, the jump for this is a little awkward. We're going to have to slope. Nope, and we clipped his fight trigger. But again, by abusing the awkward AI, we can actually just strafe around him and he's not going to fully activate. So rapid fire missiles removes them nice and easily. This is going to lower the protective barriers and it's going to allow us to leave the room.
Do you mind if I jump in with a quick donation?
Go for it.
Sounds great. Well, we have $20 from Bash Prime saying, "This may be UKSG green, but I'm firmly Team Orange today. Thank you, TGC, for being such a cool dude and such a great guy in the rando community."
Yo, Bash.
Yes, this money is going towards the category upgrade to True Ending, and let me tell you, we are $20 away from getting that met. And if you can see in the background, that is CD Romatron, the person who will be running Pizza Tower later today. So if you want to give him some good news this very early morning here in Glasgow, get those last $20 in so we can meet that lovely incentive. Back to you, GingerChris.
Thank you. So yes, there is a little bit of a kind of a joke and a meme within our kind of community regarding orange versus green. I am very much a advocate of the colour orange, as you may guess. It is effectively in the name as being GingerChris. One of my close friends, Uncle Reggie, is firmly on Team Green. So it does burn the soul a little bit that I am here repping the colours green, but hey, it's for a good cause. We're here to raise money, and I will forego my preference to the colour orange in favour of that. So we're going to climb through this waste disposal room. This looks like water. It isn't actually water, it's fake water. It doesn't do anything. It's just there primarily for, I guess, aesthetic purposes. We're going to dodge this guy. We're going to climb up here. So here's one of those thermal conduits that we were talking about. Don't actually need thermal visors to see it. You can just shoot it with a wave beam. So we're going to move this crane. Going to blow up some rubble. Hoping to find our phase-on suit while we're here. Instead, we find the boost ball. Now, this is nice. This is what you want to see. Boost just makes our life so much easier. I'm going to drop down this room, probably get peppered, yep, bullied by the turrets. Remove this gate and do our remaining few checks within mines. Gonna do a wee visual check. Can't necessarily see what that is. Gonna remove these guys, they're just gonna get in the way. Yeah, restocking some power bombs, which is good. Don't necessarily need that, but it's nice for final bosses. Ice Spreader is one of the beam combos. Utilizes the beam plus a collection of missiles. Ice Spreaders is actually a decent one. It generally tries to freeze enemies in their track. Now, another invisible pirate who's decided to go for a wander. What we're going to do is we're actually going to squeak through this gap here and shoot the door and see what's in the room. Just a missile, so we know that we can ignore that. Oh, there he is. Set him on fire. We can walk away. Now we're going to have some of these wave pirates drop down. So you can kind of stun lock these guys. One full charge will kind of put them in this paralyzed state, and then half charges from there We'll ensure that they don't kind of unparalyze, I guess. Need to kill these guys off so that we can unlock the doors of the room. And it looks like he survived. Yes, he did. Not allowed, sir. Not allowed. More invisible pirates, these shadow pirates. We're just going to remove these guys. Get them out of the way. This guy's decided to be a little bit of a dodge smith. And then we're going to do our last remaining checks in phase on mines here. So again, another one of these oversized pirate guys. We're going to lock on and dash to the right, so his AI doesn't trigger, and we're just going to rapid fire some missiles into this guy. And he's just going to keep doing this two-step dance here. Activate the platform system, get ourselves another powerbomb expansion. Got our last check in this region coming up. I'm going to shoot these turrets so they don't bully us and knock us down the room. Going to use some standable terrain here. Going to stand on these boxes, jump over to a ledge. Use the X-ray visor and see that there's a missile behind that wall, so we're just going to leave. Not going to fight anything. And that is us done with phase on mines. Where is it? There he is. So we're now going to head towards the crash frigate where we know one of our last two remaining artifacts is. So we'll get that as we're passing through. Just going to ignore these fellows. They don't lock the room anymore, so we don't need to fight them. And thankfully, we have the boost ball, so our movement ability has increased incredibly. So we're just going to fly through some of these rooms. We're going to close into one of my most hated rooms in the game. We're going to head into the back part of Talon, where the Life Grove is. The problem with Life Grove is that there is a half pipe that does not have the best geometry in the world, and you kind of sometimes just lose all of your momentum. You just kind of get stuck for no reason, and it just kills all of your boost potential. It's an absolute nuisance. Remove these spiny fellows. And we're just going to climb up this room. More spiny fellows to get rid of. Then we're going to use a spinner to drop this gate. Climb on an invisible platform. A few checks here. Just a missile, we're going to pass that up. We want to go fast. We've got 90 missiles. We don't really need to restock or gain anymore. Some more standable terrain. You're expected to use Spider Ball to kind of climb this room, but nah, it's just a suggestion. And this is Life Grove Tunnel. So there's an item at the top of this. So what I'm hoping is that we don't get stickied and we can just make our way to the top. There we go. Sometimes you can actually overshoot that as well. You end up boosting too much and just go right round. Kind of like that. Waste our last power bomb, grab an extra missile. Since we're here. Overshot it. Another missile, and now we'll leave. We're going to head into Frigate, grab our 5th artifact. Whoop, missed the jump, lovely. Now this standable is a little tricky. There's like a perfect tip spot that you need to kind of get on. If you don't land on that, you just slide off. So we're going to pass back through this half pipe. And then we're just going to drop through this room. Down into the water and into the crashed frigate from here. We're going to get ourselves some nice, chill, atmospheric music as we explore. So we're going to do a series of bomb jumps here to climb up this room. There's only 3 items in here, but they're relatively quick. Oh, bonking on something there. Lovely. Now, in the vanilla game, you wouldn't be able to do this reverse frigate due to a door that gets locked. In Randomiser, it has been opened just for, again, a kind of quality of life aspect. There is a way to get around it, but it requires a really awkward out of bounds. But for what we are doing, relatively easy. I'm going to use X-ray visor to see what's in here. It's just a missile, which is a good thing, because we don't have super missiles to actually get that. So if that was the item that we need, our Phazon suit, we would have been required to find another, oh come on game, another part of the kind of the missing puzzle link here. Come on, standable. Lovely. Right, let's just do this the normal way, rather than getting bullied. So one more item check. We're then going to take a save warp to the beginning of the game because it's actually faster than climbing out the front of the frigate itself. So this is artifact number 5. And here is our save station. Room takes a little long to load for some reason. I don't understand why. But back to landing site we go.
Time for a quick donation?
Go for it.
Sounds good. Well, let me tell you, 1 second. We have a $20 donation from Paulister. It's me. Hi. I'm the donor. It's me. And I say, you know what? I'll do it myself. Let's get Pizza Tower True Ending. More Pizza Tower! And with that, the Pizza Tower upgrade to True Ending has been met. Woo!
Very nice.
So yeah, $300 for that. Thank you all for donating for that one. And in that process, I have also opened up 2 more incentives that you can all look at and perhaps donate towards. First of all, we have naming the Sprigatito for the Pokemon Scarlet run. So if you have a lovely name for that, you can go ahead and donate for it. And also another goal where if we raise another $300 for it, for the Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World Shuffler, we will reduce the swap timer so that the games, instead of every 40 seconds, they'll be swapping every 20 seconds. Oh wait, no, actually, between 20 and 40 seconds is when the normal swap happens. This will reduce that interval from 15 to 30, so more chaos shall ensue. So, if either of these incentives catch your fancy, get your donations in. Back to you, GingerChris.
Okey-doke. So we're back in Chozo, however, we've decided to climb into the reverse part of Chozo. We're going to do all of the cleanup here. Our last artifact is on the region boss here. And we're running out of locations as to where our Phazon suit can be. Chances are it's going to be here somewhere at this point. We are running low on where it could be. The only thing to be worried about is the last region boss, the one that we dodged, could be required. And let's hope not. So we're going to bully that Chozo Ghost there. He's weak to lemons. Going to shoot that. Knock the ghost unconscious. And we're going to do an overlap here where two cutscenes are playing simultaneously. And just kind of speeds up this room. So we have activated the Chozo bowling alley here. So we're going to drop into the palm of this statue. And he's just going to throw us across the floor of the room. A very fond pastime of the Chozo, it seems. Take an extra pack of missiles while we're here. And then we'll get ourselves spit out. And then we've got one more check in this room. Locked behind the plasma coloured bomb slot here. And this slope jump can be a bit tricky depending on how you end up moving against the statue. I'm going to move the statue. I'm going to find an ice door. There's an item behind this. And see what we've got. And its super missiles will take this. This is a very good offensive option. It's going to help us out in the final boss segments. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is Secret Tunnel. Actually kind of slower, but we do it for the memes. Bang on. Funnily enough, when it came to like the randomizer tournaments, there was a few of us that used to do. There's a few of us that do that for the funny aspect of it. But people thought we were doing it because it was faster, and actually no, we just done it because we liked it.
And just to add context to the people watching live on stream, when GingerChris mentioned the tunnel, I kind of silently went, Secret Tunnel, Secret Tunnel. So that's what we were talking about there. But yeah, really funny stuff.
Right, so we're just going to move our way through back into the middle part of Chozo that we have seen and been through. We're going to aim ourselves and lock onto this just for fast movement and get bullied by the Shriek Bats. Lovely. How are we for power bombs? We're a bit light. That's fine, we can easily farm. Oh, these guys have despawned. Never noticed that before. So we have one more item check that we left here in... Actually, no, we did get this. We did get this, apologies. Oh, powerbomb. Worth it. All planned. So, this room coming up is how you would naturally access the region boss. However, I'm not going to go through the front. We're going to go in from the back entrance, which in vanilla would normally be the exit. If you somehow manage to find your way into the rear part of the room, the boss would end up despawning. However, in Randomiser, to prevent the loss of one of the items that could be placed there, we've ensured that the despawn of the boss doesn't actually go or happen until after the boss has been defeated. But as a result of that, we're going to be able to actually access the boss from the rear part, and it's actually going to allow us to do something very, very unique. Now, finding another nothing item doesn't help us. Going to do a visual check there, just find a missile, we're going to ignore that. And then we've only got a few more checks in this region left to do. And what I am going to do is take the opportunity to farm these scarabs. These guys have a high chance of dropping power bombs, which is what we want. Nice healthy 3. Oh no, we actually got 4. It was good. Going to enter into Ruined Shrine for the 3rd time this run. However, this is going to allow us to access a section of the room in the far back that we couldn't access earlier on because we didn't have the wave beam. Going to do some standable here and do some dashing. Now, the way this room works is that you are intended to shoot weak structure points of the tower, make the tower collapse, drop down so it's easier to use these platforms. But using some dashing, we're actually just going to use the enemies to reach the outskirts of the tower and just climb it a lot faster. We're then going to drop to the very bottom and look to the training or the tower chamber room. Find another missile. And now we're going to head for the region boss. So all we've got left to do in this area. Grab our last artifact and hopefully find our remaining suit. Because there is actually 2 items tied to the final boss because there's 2 layers to the room. So we're just going to head back through, do a bit of kind of backtracking towards where we need to go to. Head through some morph tunnels, and then we're going to enter into Sun Tower. So thanks to finding those supers, this is going to be a lot easier to work with, or at least doable more so. I have to super missile these panels, scan the hidden points behind them. And then we're going to use the spider track and climb up this room. Dodge these guys. And then we're going to head into Flagra, the poisonous plant that is polluting the Chozo ruins. However, interesting situation that gets caused in Randomiser. When we head into the reverse fight, the actual fight triggers by the front door. So the boss doesn't actually activate. And we're going to take advantage of that. These bomb slots, as they are designed to look like, aren't actually proper bomb slots. They are weak to bombs, but they're not actually the same as any other bomb slots throughout the game. As a result of that, they're also weak to power bombs. So what we're going to do is a double-double where we can actually blow up 2 of these supposed bomb slots at the same time by positioning ourselves perfectly equidistant between them. So we've managed to get 2 bomb slots with 1 power bomb. Oh no, I butchered it. We got 1 bomb slot with 1 power bomb. We'll try and cut this down. Position with this, see if we can get another 2. So we got 2 that time. So Flagra's just going to burn. She's unconscious, sleeping, just resting. You can see the water is all green. It's all acidic. Whenever we've passed through some of the rooms and kind of touched the water, you would have been taking damage. Going to blow up the last one. It's not going to trigger a cutscene until we trigger the fight itself. So now what's going to happen is that we're actually going to overlap the beginning of the fight and the end of the fight together. And there is our last artifact. Now, we do have one more item to get. We're going to go down Sun Tower partially, hit a trigger point, and then return to this room because it's going to change the layer. And then once we enter into this layer, we're going to fight a few Chozo ghosts. Once removing those, we'll end up with the last item of the region. And then, fingers crossed, that is what we are looking for. So thanks to having X-ray, we can see these guys. They would usually phase in and out of being visible from the combat visor, but X-ray can always see them. But because we also have supers, it is actually a lot easier to get rid of them. One super missile and one fully charged slot. That is like 5 AM language for you.
Closer to 6 AM, actually.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
jeez. Come on. Show me the goods. Oh, okay. This is looking like an all bossy seed. Lovely. So what we're going to do, to ensure that I haven't missed a check, we're going to go for the suit hint. So we're going to go to the Artifact Temple. We're going to trigger the third to last boss. After defeating that, it's going to give us access to the Impact Crater, which will allow us to gain the necessary hint. And I'm hoping that it tells us that it's going to be Findrana Drifts, which basically confirms that the suit that we are looking for is on the last of the region bosses. So we're going to take this elevator. There's a save station at the bottom of this room, so this allows us to do a warped start, which is a lot quicker kind of navigating in this direction. Okay, actually, there's 2 more checks that I've just remembered in Magmoor, thanks to power bombs. But this is always going to be good for us. Going to take a safety save, mainly to refill our ammunition. Going to scan dash across this entire room, saves us having to climb it normally. Come on, door. Artifact Temple generally takes a little bit of time to load because there is a lot in this room. So that confirms that we do have our 6 artifacts. We're going to find Meta Ridley, who's going to pop up, try to grief us. We're just going to throw some salsa at him until he goes away. Now, we're going to do a little bit of a minute for this fight. If we pull ourselves to the far back of the room, what's essentially going to happen is that Meta Ridley's going to do a few swoops, fire some missiles, and eventually he's going to slam into the centre of the room. However, based on where you are, he will try to come as close to you as possible. If we pull him as close to this wall, it's actually going to mess up his AI in a sense that he can't do the charging attack that is a bit of a pain. Now, the other thing, though, is very interesting. And I think oh, come on, game. Okay, we got it finally. Now, the other thing about this fight is that Ridley is actually weak to boost ball for some reason. There's the charge that we didn't want. When Ridley lands, if you charge a boost and just launch yourself into it, it deletes all of its health, or tries to. But there is a bit of a damage cap on that phase. So you will always transition to this phase here. So, nice and vulnerability. He's going to shoot his chest, he's going to blow off the chest panel. going to keep shooting away. And then we are going to drop a super into his chest, and then off the platform, Ridley will go. But yes, the boost ball does something in the region of like 15,000 damage in one swoop, so it just removes all of his health. But because of the damage cap, it stops at one point. He transitions to his fully ground phase, and then you just kind of manipulate him a little bit around the room. So the Chozo Ghosts are going to thank us for doing a good deed here, returning the artifact, getting rid of the metallic chicken, and then we're going to enter into the kind of the final region. But as soon as we enter, we're going to pull up our scan visor, we're going to read the signpost that is in this room, and it's going to tell us where our phazon suit is, or at least the region that it's in. Magma Caverns. Okay. We have 2 remaining checks in there. They'll be fairly easy to get to. So we're going to save warp out, get back to the landing site, and then we're going to head to our root cave. So more than welcome to do any donations or speak about anything you want while I do a little bit of backtracking.
Okay, sounds... Sorry, microphone. Sounds good. Alright, so... I mentioned this a little bit earlier in chat, but I'll mention it here again. But if you want to support future UKSG events, there is a very easy way to do it. And that is because part of the revenue that ESA receives through ads, subs, and cheers, and any sort of thing that gives a streamer like direct revenue, actually part of that is given to UKSG. So, if you want to help fund future events and ensure that we get better gear, nice venues, and as much space as we can for our lovely attendees here, then you can go ahead and subscribe to the ESA channel, or, you know, do some cheers. And especially if you have a Twitch Prime, I don't think I need to sing the praises after years of, well, talking about it. But if you have a free subscription from Twitch Prime, why not go ahead and use it here? You can support a lovely event like this one, and also ESA in the meantime. But yeah, GingerChris, I don't know if I have any more time.
I'll go. Well, I'll keep going if you want.
All right, I can talk a little bit about Crisis once again. As always, we're raising money to support Crisis, charity supporting people out of homelessness for good. They achieve this through education, training, and support with housing, employment, and health. 90% of your donations will go towards Crisis, and 10% will go towards UKSG's future events. So that's another way you can support UKSG. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about what they do in their own words as they gave them to us. So, we help homeless people find and keep a rented home. We do this by working with landlords to ensure a supply of places to live and giving homeless people the tools and knowledge they need to rent successfully. Our best practice team provide information and training for housing professionals across the UK through our resource center, helping to set up and develop projects to end homelessness. Our Help to Rent database lists schemes across the UK to help people overcome barriers to accessing private rented accommodation. No matter how much you donate, we'd like to thank you all for your generosity and for helping us raise so much money for such an incredible cause. Back to you, GingerChris.
Alright. So we are heading to our last check in Magma Caverns, and this is guaranteed to be the suit that we are looking for, and then we're going to head into the go mode sequence. So we're probably looking maybe around 12 to 15 minutes to finish time from here, so long as everything goes well. So we're going to climb up this room, use our boost ball to activate these spinners. This is going to kind of raise the roof of the room and reveal a gigantic spider track puzzle that we are going to absolutely ignore by using standable terrain and slope jump techniques. You're expected to like navigate the entire circular aspect of the room. We are not going to do that. And there is our final suit. So it's time to head to final bosses. Gonna go find ourselves a save station and utilize that warp to start feature. And due to some cosmetic options, you can see that this suit has a very cool neon green kind of outline. The suit is usually black and red, nice red racing stripes. But oddly enough, as much as I'm more of an orange fan, this green is really nice in the suit. We'll take the save warp. We will take another save at the station, the ship, primarily refill our ammunition, just because it makes life a lot easier. We want as many missiles as we possibly can for the final bosses here. Now let's see if I can get a 2 for 2 on the ship dash here. This dash is fairly tricky. One of the weird nuances with Metroid Prime is it's very specific to the sensitivity of the B button. The lighter the B button press when you are jumping and dashing, the better the dash actually is. The longer you hold the button, the more likely you are to just plummet to the ground with that jump. That dash there from the ship straight up to the ledge of the artifact temple entryway is very precise. You need like the slightest ever flick. So one of the kind of common terms in our community is flicky B presses. And to be perfectly honest, the GameCube controller makes some of the best controller noises possible. So welcome to the dentist's office. This room is just filled with giant, overgrown, ugly teeth for some reason. I'm trying to do a slope jump to get on top of this. I'm going to fail it. This Metroid's going to grief us. I'm going to remove it. And then we finally get up. This saves us having to use a bunch of floating platforms to actually get up here. Cuts out a chunk of the room. I'm going to try and avoid Jill here. These two Metroids are in this room are called Jack and Jill because they generally and very often knock you down the hill. And welcome to Metroid Prime, the first of a two-phase final boss sequence. Now this fight is very much a kind of Simon Says fight, and this is why we require all 4 beams. The way that Metroid Prime works is it will shift through a series of colours based on the kind of the colours of your beams. In Subchamber 1, it's going to transition between Power Beam and Wave Beam. In Subchamber 2, it's going to add Ice to the mix. In Subchamber 3, it'll add Plasma. In the final chamber, it is going to use all 4, but it's going to cycle in a chaotic and random nature. In the first 3 subchambers, it is going to go one to the next, to the next. It will never double up. In the last chamber, it will just do what it wants. Now, what we are going to try to do is a bit of a melee manip here. If we approach as close as possible and stay just ever so slightly in front of it, it's always going to do this claw swipe. And we want to do that as much as possible. It just makes life easier, makes life a lot faster. We're going to use our ice spreader here, freeze it in its tracks. Does a fair chunk of damage. Yeah. Try to get it on the run. Just going to jump over its claw as it's doing these swipes and just keep shooting it with charged shots. This is going to move us into Subchamber 3. Plasma is going to be added to the mix, as we said. But again, Same fashion here, we're just going to try and do this melee minute. In this chamber, it is going to try to use the grapple beam on us. Generally, you just want to run straight at it and let the grapple beam pull you in. But hey, melee minute failed. Now, these orbs do a lot of damage. You want to remove these as quickly as you possibly can. As Prime charges at you, you can briefly get a shot in. It's kind of difficult because the way this kind of boss is designed is you can kind of see it's got that kind of face panel that's open. When it charges, it closes that face panel, but there's a brief moment as it gets close to you that opens up. So what we're trying to do is basically squeeze a shot in as it hits you, and that kind of face panel opens. Get a super in. We're going to see if we can hit it with a... There we go, we got a super in as it charged right at us. And then we've got sub-chamber 4. This is where the Simon Says gets a little bit erratic. This phase will transition regardless of damage. It can just choose to cycle between 2 colours if it wants. Sometimes it can go 3. It is whatever it decides. There is no set pathway. Because we had to deal with the orbs, I decided to charge at us. Get another running shot at it. And again, it's not being nice. Get rid of those. And then we finally get into a position that we can try and melee minute. It seems Samus's metal backside decided to do a bit of damage there, which is a bit weird. Come on, Prime, play nice. And there we go. That is Metroid Prime's first part of the fight. We are now heading into the final fight of the game. And this is what we call Essence. Metroid Prime is going to discard the exoskeleton, the shell, and it's going to come out in some sort of like weird tentacle creatures, not very Metroid-like at all. Missiles don't do anything, so we're just going to throw the flamethrower at it and waste all of our ammunition just because it's fun. If people like fried calamari, go for it. Doesn't do anything. This boss is only weak to the phase-on beam. We need to stand in this pool. Our suit is going to trigger the phase-on cannon. And then we need to find the essence. Now what we're going to do is we're going to stutter shot this. So effectively we hit one shot, wait till the chin resets, and then just hit it again. We're extending the amount of damage that we can get out of the pool. And then once it does that, the second kind of pool summon, you can just burst the remainder of the pool. And we're closing in on time. Once this boss comes down, and that will be the end of the run. Or a bit premature on that one. Going to move to the back of the room. One of the things that we don't want in this fight is what's called a pool skip. If Essence is far too close to the actual carcass of the previous fight, it can skip an entire phase because it can't drop a pool when it's too close. So this fight doesn't require the visors, but the visors make it a lot easier. Maybe just a little short, yeah. So by moving to the back of the room further away from the corpse, we're trying to draw Prime towards us so it doesn't pull skip us. Drop power bombs to get rid of the little Metroids. Where is it? On top of me? Yeah. Where's the pool? Oh, come on. Okay, this pool is a little finicky on the terrain here. There we go. And time. Oh boy. Definitely a different experience playing this at 4 in the morning.
Certainly is, certainly is.
But yes, that is Prime Randomiser, or at least the standard settings for a Prime Randomiser. There's a lot of different features that we could throw in, but I thought I'd bring the kind of the bare knuckles that we run on a regular basis. Now, not much else left for me to say. We saw all the items. In the credits, you can see where all the item placement is. So if there's any major item that you missed, you can see where it was located. If you want to see more Prime Randomiser action, follow me on twitch.tv/TheGingerChris. I do this on a very regular basis, mess around with all of the different settings. However, if you want to see more Prime Randomiser in general, at the end of the month, we will be doing our 2023 Prime Randomiser tournament. That will be kicking off the 29th of May, I believe. We expect it to be 6 weeks of Swiss with a top 8. And this year we're doing something a little different where each round has a different thematic or a different theme to the randomizer settings, whereas previously it was just kind of here's your generic settings and then players can do some runners agreements and change and tweak what they wanted, but we're changing it up a little bit. But other than that, nothing much else to say from my side. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure to do this. I am looking forward to collapsing into a bed somewhere. It's been a long, more than 12 hours somewhere, I think. Lost track of that. But yeah, pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you very much. Randomizers are always fascinating to me. So that was a lovely, lovely showcase and definitely kept me engaged into the wee hours of the morning. And I, along with you, will be going over to my room and crashing as well, because that is also the end of my hosting shift. So as we get ready for the next run, which is The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword with KitKat, I'll be passing the hosting desk over to the lovely, the incredible Skenme, who's waving to the camera right now. But yeah, before that, we're going to get into a quick intermission, but let me remind you, we're less than $100 away from beating the donation totals of 2 separate events. So let's get those donations in for all of that and for an amazing cause. But yeah, quick intermission, and enjoy the rest of UKSG.
Bye.